going to be the man that just sits back and keeps the overview and makes sure he knows where all the threats are coming from. He wants to be what he's being in this training drill, the pivot person that links the play from defence to attack, and wants to play that quarterback role of looking for the incisive passes, whether those be through the air, along the ground, out wide, whichever way you want to look at it. And so I agree. He's not Matthijs de Ligt. Matthijs de Ligt loves defending, right? Like, you listen to the way he talks about defending, and it's like listening to a striker talk about scoring goals. Matthijs de Ligt loves defending. Kimmich, I think, is happy to defend, but he doesn't love it. So I agree with you there. But this is the point I made as well in the earlier part. Javi Martinez was a special player because he was happy being a role player and fulfilling the role. Bayern would have to be careful in buying a player right now in the summer that would maybe come in with too many expectations. But then if you're going to buy this defensive specialist that everyone thinks that Bayern needs, surely the idea is to sign that player and then he comes straight into the starting line. And I again point out that the risk of upsetting not just Leon Goretzka, not just Konrad Laiman, but Ryan Gravenberch as well. I mean, that's 3 players that will just potentially be a bit of a cloud that could hang over the club, and that's what I'm sure the Bayern decision makers are weighing up right now in terms of whether they do dip into the transfer market at all. But yeah, trying to look at a few more of the comments that have come in recently, and again, I point out anyone tuning in. Got, according to the Facebook Live numbers, just over 1,500 of you, so really an incredible turnout today. So thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are in the world. We have been enjoying the worldwide fan base that Bayern have. But if you've got any questions or opinions that you want to discuss, feel free to put them in the chat. And Ali's got one here. Now this is interesting. We're going to have to try and interpret this question, Ali, so hopefully I interpret it correctly. He's asking, is your opinion that the dualism of de Ligt and Kim is the best for Bayern? So I think what you're asking there is whether I think the partnership of de Ligt and Kim might be the best one for Bayern this season. Now, that's a hard question to answer actually right now, because I like the look of what we've seen from Kim, but as I said earlier, there have been times where it's clearly not as comfortable in the build-up phase for Bayern. So maybe for now, I would perhaps say that the Upamecano de Ligt partnership that had a lot of time to build last season, where they maybe have a better understanding because they've worked together for that long. I think that one might be the best one going forward. For now, I do think Min-Jae Kim, long term, is more than capable of winning a starting berth at centre-back on a regular basis, without question. I think we saw his quality with Napoli as they had that historic Serie A win for the first time in 33 years. He played in 35 of their 38 league games last season. I'd say, Ali, the jury is still out. The fact is, though, if you're choosing between 3 centre-backs and your choices are de Ligt, Min-Jae Kim and Dayot Upamecano, I tell you what a luxury. I don't know what Thomas Muller's doing in the background, but he's doing something to make a few people chuckle in the crowd. Understandable that the players are enjoying themselves. Day like today, as I say, the conditions absolutely glorious. Couldn't ask for more. Maybe the temperature could drop just a few degrees because it's absolutely scorching out there. You can hear some of the younger fans in attendance calling out to their favourite players. German schools, I think, if I'm not mistaken, go back next week. So this is the last chance before their summer holidays end to come out and see their favourite players in action. Bayern players still being put through their paces here. Grant, thanks for your opinion here. I love the interaction, Grant, as well. Always appreciate people getting in touch in the chat, but he's chimed in on the centre-back debate as well, saying as long as De Ligt is starting, it really doesn't matter who else is on the back line because everyone we have is solid. And that's exactly it. I couldn't agree more. And De Ligt is really the leader that I think Bayern have been missing at the back in recent seasons. Yes, I mean, you had the likes of Mats Hummels, Jerome Boateng in seasons past, but De Ligt has given them a bit of a different dynamic in that back line. Not a bad threat to have in the opponent's box either, it has to be said, the Dutchman, because he's attacks every header like his life depends on it. He scored a couple of goals last season, but something tells me there might be a few more in his locker in the current campaign. Husseini also getting in touch, saying I think Kim and De Ligt is more fit than Upamecano. Reckons that Thomas Müller should always start ahead of Musiala. Ooh, that's a big call. That's a big call, Husseini. Okay, but he says, here's the rationale, ladies and gentlemen. So we open up this can of worms now. He says, Musiala holds the ball too much and doesn't know when to pass or dribble. Wow, Husseini. You, my friend. You, my friend, have come up with the controversial opinion of the day, I believe. And you know what? You're welcome to it. You have every right to have that opinion, and I'm not knocking it at all. I don't hold the same opinion entirely. I will agree with you on the last point a little bit. You said he doesn't even know when to pass or dribble. I disagree, but I do think he's still 20 years old, and I do believe Jamal Musiala is still working out when to make the best decisions for his team. I think we're seeing moments of that last season especially. There were times he was very selfish, and there were times he was very selfless. And rarely was that wrong. But I will agree with you, there are times that he takes one dribble too many, where he can maybe look for the pass. But I think with a player like Jamal Musiala, you've got to give him that freedom, right? You've got to give him that freedom to try and run at players and maybe run himself into a corridor. You've got to give him the freedom to try and be selfish and not always selfless in that role. Now, Müller is an incredible player, and if you heard earlier, I was asked who my favourite Bayern players were, and Thomas Müller was the second player I mentioned, behind Jamal Musiala. But Thomas Müller can't be the player that Thomas Müller used to be for Bayern anymore. He's still incredibly fit, he takes really good care of his body, mentally sharp, one of the best leaders on a pitch as well. They call him Radio Müller here in Munich. But I don't think Müller can expect to be starting every game ahead of Musiala at his age right now. And I don't think Thomas Tuchel sees it that way either. The customary, if we have a bingo list for a live training session here with Bayern, well, Thomas Müller sitting on a football needs to be on that bingo list. Maybe that's something we have to create in the future to see which ones we can tick off. Thomas Müller cracking a joke, that would also be on that list as well. But Husseini, again, I thank you. I thank you for writing in. I thank you for sharing your opinion. I personally don't agree with it, but I do agree with the fact that Musiala is still learning. The fact that he's not the complete product yet. He's not the complete player, and sometimes he makes the wrong decision. I do. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And so, yeah, Grant just actually said it really well. That's a hot take, but I see where you're coming from. And so, I think that's the best way to put it. But let's be honest, Jamal Musiala is the future of this club. Goodness, I mean, what he's able to produce already at such a young age, and confidence he plays with, the expectation levels he has of himself. I think this is something that maybe surprised me with Jamal Musiala the most, is that there were a couple of times I was at the Allianz Arena last season, and you'd see him walking through the corridors after the game, and he'd be actually genuinely a little grumpy. And a little upset, and that's because he holds himself to such high standards. He wants perfection from himself out on a football pitch. And I think that mentality already at 20 years of age shows you that he's going to be such a big player for Bayern in the future. He is constantly striving to improve and do better. He's constantly expecting more of himself. And while he maybe does himself down in that regard, in the fact that he's maybe kind of beating himself up a little bit more than he needs to, that type of mentality will see you succeed at a club like Bayern. That type of mentality is almost required to succeed at a club like Bayern. And we've seen many talented players come to Munich that don't have that required mentality, and they don't quite make the breakthrough despite being very talented at a young age. And I think we could say that about Mathys Tel as well, because he's showing that same type of fortitude. Because I like the fact that he was such a bit part player last season, but he seemed to relish the opportunities he got when he came out on the pitch. He always looked to make a quick impact. He was always ambitious on the ball. Bit of a high challenge there on Kimmich, if he's still wearing that fluorescent bib.